everyone, this is Bobo from the Mari server. I'm here to do a video on dyes. Yes, I know it doesn't seem like much to cover for dyes, but there's actually a lot to cover on dyes, so I'm just gonna jump right to it and just speed tunnel through it. Alright, so for dyes, the most common dye you guys are gonna see are regular fixed color dye amps. And what these dye amps do is that they will dye your clothes, they will dye your gloves, your shoes, your headbands, all the things that are cloth related on your character or in your inventory. So there are two types of color dye amps. There's a fixed one, and then there's a regular dye ample. A fixed one, if I were to click on it and use it right now, it will automatically dye that outfit at that color that is fixed at. So it's already pre-chosen. The color is already set here. The color you see here is that color. That is what a fixed dye is. Now dye ample, however, will pop up something different. Now I'm going to do it over here on the shoe. It's going to pop up a palette, and it lets you choose between 1 out of 5 colors you can dye with. Now if I were to click on pick color, you'll see that my cursor will have these 5 points to it, and literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to position my cursor to the dye that I want to choose. So if I wanted a white one, I'm going to have to literally find that sweet spot for white. Where is it? There it is. So I found white right there in the center of my thing. However, if you notice the bar on the bottom, you'll see that it's moving down, and if I don't click on that spot that I have hovered, you'll see that, boom, the palette has resetted to a new one. So this is actually kind of like a little mini game. You actually have to like choose your color before the timer thingy runs out. It's kind of annoying, but that is one thing to keep in mind when it comes to looking for your color. You can't like look for like 1 hour. You have to do it really quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that again, try again. I'm gonna like, oh, there's white, I like this. But notice that now the white's there, but all the other 4 points that I had no choice but to like position at chose different colors. If I were to click on start dyeing right now, which I won't because I already got the color I wanted, it has a chance of getting these other 4 colors as well. So that's pretty much how dyeing works on Mabi. Is not it's literally like you either get it or you don't. It's like a little gotcha point in a way. But some people don't want to go through the hassle of getting the wrong color, so they get a fixed dye. And that's the awesome thing about fixed dyes. However, do keep in mind that there are color codes on each dye, fixed dye, and you'll see on this one, the white one is FFF, FFF, and that is a fixed white, pure white dye. And the black one is 000,000, and that is the purest of all blacks. Now, there are going to be some off colors that look similar to black and white, or other colors that you might like. And that's why it's good to use the color codes, because as you can see, the ones on the bottom below this black dye, they look black too, but are they pure black? They're not, because if I hover over them, their color code is different. It is not 000,000, it is a different color code, even though these two kind of look like black. So it's actually really nice that they added the color codes to Mabi. It makes it easier for us to find the color we want, easier for people to not get scammed off of like buying colors they think is the color that they want. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you are looking at fixed dyes, is that it has a dye color on it. So that is the first most common dye you're going to see on Mabi. The second most common dye you're going to see on Mabi would be the metal dyes. And what the metal dyes is that they dye metal things like armor related stuff or weapons and stuff like that. However, do keep in mind that not one weapon or item is always going to be just that specific dye type. If I were to click on a shuriken, for example, shurikens can be dyed for part B and C. They can both be dyed for metal. However, if I were to use a regular fixed dye amp, you can see that they also can be used on shrinkins as well. So then there's part A. Part A, which is the cloth tail part of the shrinkin, can be dyed with a regular dye amp. So it's not always going to be metal dye only for a certain item, or dye amp only for another item. There can be a combination of both. So if you see a part that you can't dye, always play around with the types of dyes you have and see if you can dye it with a different type. So that is what a metal dye is. There are fixed ones, there are flashy ones. Same thing with fixed dyes. There are flashy ones, and the flashy ones are literally Where's the example? It's kind of hard to see. Okay, this is not really easy to see. So here's here's an example of a flashy metal on my lance, and then another example would be on my cylinder, another flashy metal on my cylinder. So that is what flashy dyes look like. The one on my cylinder is actually not a metal flashy, it is a regular flashy, to my surprise. But the one on my lance is actually a metal flashy. So that is what a flashy dye looks like. It's a flickering dye that changes from a few other colors. Alright, the next one down on the list would be a spirit weapon dye. And I'm going to equip my spirit weapon. Kerblowy. And you'll see, slightly, not a lot, that my spirit dye is flashing white, and that is what the flash right here is. And those are what spirit weapon dyes are. You can unfortunately only use spirit weapon dyes on spirit weapons. Now, if you don't like the spirit weapon dyes that they have on Mabby, because there really isn't much, there's lots of just really generic colors. They don't really have a huge variety just yet. If you don't like the color, my only pro tip is to say dye your weapon before you ego it, because once you ego it into a spirit weapon, you have to get a spirit dye just to dye it. So get the color you want first, and then turn it into an ego, and that'll help with your, dyeing process. Next thing down on the list is an instrument dye, and what the instrument dyes are literally what they are. They are for instruments only. So if you have an instrument, you can only use an instrument dye on them. Another dye that I don't have but does exist, actually, I haven't really seen one, is a wand dye. There's a wand fixed dye. I'm not sure how to get it. I think it's like a gachapon, or like either a gachapon or like a shop thing. But a wand fixed dye literally is for dyeing wands. Yeah. And then last but not least is the pet fixed dyes, and these are for pets, of course. Now, that's kind of interesting. People are like, oh wow, you can dye your pets in this game? Holy snaps. Now, do keep in mind that not all pets can be dyed. I'm going to show you guys right now how pet dyeing works, because some people don't know how to do it. If I would open, press T, open the pet menu, and show you guys my list of pets, you can see that some here have a little icon here that looks like a little square Rubik's Cube in a way, sort of thing. And that means that this pet can be dyed. This one right here, however, does not have one, which means this pet cannot be dyed. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that not all pets can be dyed a different color. Now, let's say I want to dye this pet. You just gotta summon it, and then use the dye, fixed dye, and then kerblow. It's gonna, like, it's gonna have this window here, and you can choose which part you want to dye. For those that have the other, I believe it's another pet thingy that's like a pet fixed dye, but it's like a little box of some sort. I believe when you open it, it gives you a random pet fixed dye color. It doesn't open like this. It doesn't open like a palette. Just letting you guys know. And then, last but not least, is how to get the dyes. right? I think that's probably the most important thing, is that some people who, if you guys are new to the game, you guys probably like, oh, I want to get some dyes and change my color scheme because, you know, all these colors don't match me, and I just all mismatching and all that stuff. I want to be cool and, you know, match my colors and all that stuff. So to get dyes, there are pretty much a few ways you can get them. Let me go back to my homestead for a quick second. One, you can either buy them off of the cash shop. Probably the most costly way is to buy them off of the cash shop. They do sell it in the cash shop for, I forgot how much, just probably like $1 or something. And that is one way to get some dyes. Another way is if you were lucky enough to buy a magical fractal dye well, you can gather dyes off of these wells daily, and then it'll give you a jar of a flashy fixed dye. And I know some people are like, but I don't want that flashy fixed dye, but it's still great because you can synthesize fixed dyes. Some people don't really know about that, so letting you guys know that yes, if you do have a fixed dye, and this is only for fixed dyes, does not count towards instrument dyes, spirit dyes, metal dyes, pet dyes, wand dyes, any of that stuff. You can't synthesize those dyes. Only fixed dyes you can synthesize. At the same time, you cannot synthesize dye ampoules, like the ones that aren't fixed. You also cannot synthesize expiring dye ampoules, or any expiring dyes. You cannot synthesize. So I'm going to grab this fixed dye here, because I don't want this fixed dye here. And I'm going to grab this one right here, because I don't want this color. These two colors, let's say these two colors I don't like. And then you need to also have one garbage herb. Garbage herbs are easily obtainable from the Shillian Reserve in the very first room floor. And then you've got unknown ore fragments, which again can also be easily obtained in the Hillwind mines on the first floor. Then that is the formula to synthesize. You'll see right here that with this combination I will synthesize a new dye. So in a way you do actually have to sacrifice one dye just to get another color. I'll go ahead and do that. And voila, I've got a different dye. And it's literally like a little mini gachapon. I've got a purple dye. Darn it. And if I don't like that dye, I can always use this dye, and then I'm gonna go synthesize it again with another dye. Let's see. Like I said, these are expiring, so I can't put these in there. Those will not work. So that is how people get like all these fixed dyes and stuff. And speaking of peoples, that is the, I guess the only other way you can get dyes from is from other players. There's lots of other players selling dyes in their shops in like Belvis or Dunbarton. So be sure to check the populated merchant channels and check the shops, and you'll most likely see a bunch of people with like different dyes. Because most of the time they're probably gathering all these well dyes and then synthesizing them and then reselling them to other players. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is you can buy them from other players. And that's the only other way you can get them. Actually, sorry, I'm just kidding. Another way you can get them is through gachapons. There are some gachapons that give certain fixed dyes, rare ones. And then there are some gachapons that only give that specific dye, like I think like the wand one. So, and that's probably the only place you can obtain them. So that is where you can get dyes and how they work in Mabi and stuffs. Last but not least, I want to end this video by letting you guys know that there are different palettes of dyes in Mabi, not just the common cloth one. So as you can see, I'm using this dye amp right here on the cloth headgear, and you can see this is the cloth palette. However, if I use this on my Cressida, this is a leather palette. The palettes are completely different. You can see that this one's a little bit more harder to get white, a pure white or black off of, and compared to the other one. And then if you were to look at a metal one, oh gosh darn it, I don't have a metal die to preview. But a metal one will most likely just show all gray. And I think I have a thing open here. Is it still here? Where's my window? Nope, I closed it. Well, there's lots of dye palettes, but most commonly that you're gonna run into are the cloth ones and the leather ones. So do keep in mind about that. In the end, if you want to get like a white off of a leather one, like let's say I wanted a white off of my Cressida, that's not gonna happen because there are no whites. Yeah, there are no whites. So in the end, you actually are forced to use a fixed dye color on it just to get the color that you wanted. And then once you use it, kerblam, it's there for sure. And there you have it. I'm a doctor. Anyways, hopefully this video was very informative to you guys. If you guys have any recommendations of videos you want me to do, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Or if I missed out on anything in these videos, please do leave them in the comments for other players to read through, so you guys are all helping each other out. Alright? Alright. Alright. Stay awesome, guys, and have a great day. Ooh. I really do look like a doctor.